Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Wahda. I'm a nursing student of Sikas Banyuwangi. I would like to tell you about mental disorder. One day, there was a student named Putri Aira. She is called Putri by her friend. She had a very dangerous mental disorder. It is, Putri knew that she had mental disorder exactly on her 18th birthday. On Saturday, all students at her school had to start a psychiatric test in the school field unless for an acceptable reason. This test was only intended for 3rd grade of senior high school. Mrs. Maria, the psychology teacher, suggested this test. Mrs. Maria distributed 2 sheets of paper to each student, then stood in front of all students and spoke into the microphone. About 4 hours later, Mrs. Maria asked all students to collect the papers whether they finished or not. Most of the students had finished their work, but almost all of them answered randomly because they didn't well about the question, including Putri. The time has come when the result of the psychiatric test will be known. All the 3rd grade students gathered in the field to get the test result. Mrs. Maria spoke in front of all students with the microphone. All of you has normal psyche, said Mrs. Maria. The entire field suddenly became crowded. All of the students cheered happily, and no one let on a sound of cheering. Some of them clapped their hands, and some even whistled. Their cheers sounded like a mountain erupted. Mrs. Maria also put on a loving smile on her face. Okay, now silent please. I haven't finished talking yet, said Mrs. Maria with a smile. About a minute after the sentence was said, the atmosphere in the field became quiet again. Indeed, all of you have a normal psyche based on the test result, said Mrs. Maria. Escape for one student, she continued. Again, the whole field became noisy. All of them were very curious about who was the one Mrs. Maria meant. Some of the students kept asking Mrs. Maria to tell who he was and the term of mental disorder that he had, including Putri. Come on, don't be crowded, said Mrs. Maria. I will not announce it in public, however. The atmosphere in the field is still crowded. It was already 3 in the afternoon, and time for going home. Putri has arrived at home. As she got home, suddenly someone knocking on the door. The door to her house was closed. Come in, said Putri. The door was opened by someone from outside, and she was Mrs. Maria. Putri was surprised by the sudden arrival of Mrs. Maria. Why is the teacher suddenly visiting, and how did Mrs. Maria know her house? Putri asked question in her mind. Putri invited Mrs. Maria to sit face to face with her. They also talked and joked. As it turned out, Mrs. Maria knew where Putri lived because she had been following her along. And the reason for visiting her house is, Put, do you know who is the only student in our school who suffers from mental disorders? No. Do you want to know? If you want to know, I will tell you who she is. Putri's heart pounded instantly. Why did Mrs. Maria speak so seriously? At the time, she didn't know who the student with mental disorders was. To be honest, she was really curious about him. Of course, I'm very curious. What is he? You. Her heartbeat stopped for a moment and resumed beating. At first, she didn't believe it, but finally, she believed it. It's impossible for Mrs. Maria to lie about that. So, what disorder am I suffering from? Schizophrenia. What is that? You know, Wood, you are a cheerful, easy to socialize, and active in various things, such as student council. Yes, that's why I really didn't know that you had schizophrenia. And do you often have hallucination, hear strange voice, or something? That's always happening every day and every afternoon, Mom. Don't you find it strange? Ordinary, I guess it's the devil works. Maybe I'm an indigo child. No, you're wrong. Is not the devil work. It is the work your brain. Schizophrenia is often described as madness. This condition causes sufferers to experience delusion, hallucination, chaotic thought, and change in behavior. Therefore, people with schizophrenia was difficult to interact social and carry out daily activities. I experience delusion, visual and auditory hallucination, and chaotic thought every day. As for change in behavior, I don't know. Well, you do look like a schizophrenic at all. You look normal, like any other student. But in fact, you have a mental disorder. You know, schizophrenia is the most dangerous mental disorders in the world. Putri was surprised when she heard Mrs. Maria word. Not expecting, it turned out she has a very dangerous mental disorders. The incident happened 4 years ago, when Putri was still in senior high school. And now, Mrs. Maria is gone forever. She passed away this morning for doesn't make sense reason. Of course, Putri was very surprised when she found out the news. That's why Putri brought back this memory.